In this episode, I'll be giving my reaction and recap to the 8th episode in Survivor's 50th season titled Double the Fun, Double the Demise. So let's see if that episode title is true when we talk about Survivor Season 50, Episode 8. We start this episode off of last week with the D voted off as the first member of the jury, the first official merge boot of the season, and the one person who was the potential split vote was none other than Tiffany, receiving 4 votes from her colleagues to be sent home. And I have to commend Tiffany, and we have not seen a lot of Tiffany on this season. It has actually been a major talking point throughout this season, but the last 3 weeks we've been seeing a lot of Tiffany, and I think she does this perfectly as a TV character, and I don't know if she's playing into this at all. I doubt she is, but she's very frustrated in her confessionals that people are coming for me. People wrote my name down. I'm going to kill them all. I'm going to get the revenge on them all, and we'll find out if that happens. It does. Spoiler alert for Survivor season 50, episode 8. If you haven't watched yet, click off now and come back later. This is for the people who have watched. Tiffany does get her revenge. But I love this confessional versus in person where you have to be able to separate your inner thoughts from your outer. And maybe this is what got Coach cooked, where Tiffany is very upset on the inside. These people voted for me. They want me out. Okay. But when she's talking to people, she's like, hey, it's chill. It's cool. And she actually leverages 2 of those votes tonight to be ally members in the future in Joe and Ozzy. So good job by Tiffany. I think she recovered really well. And I think they made the right choice tonight. A lot of the players made the right choice tonight to open this game up after getting rid of the Zoom pregame alliance. That was supposedly a thing. I'm sure we'll hear about that tomorrow in Exit Press. But Tiffany, I think has been a standout over the last couple episodes. So just wanted to mention her off the top. I always like to talk about that kind of first person to talk after coming back from camp and who's really the big story. Coach, meanwhile, is having the opposite sort of reaction where he believes he was the one driving the vote. And it's a little concerning when you're pregame alliance / main number 1 alliance mostly in this game. Jonathan is even getting a little wary of Coach, saying, he's got to calm down or else he's going to get us all in trouble. And, the train had left the station because Jonathan is the only one who votes incorrectly tonight. Or he's not, him and Christy are the only ones who vote incorrectly tonight. It's tough luck for Jonathan right now. But Coach thinking he was the one who drove the vote, I would give him some sort of credit for that because he was the one we see going around saying, you have to vote for Tiffany, you have to vote for D. And he was the one who took this sort of approach with D, like it's going to be a battle and it's going to be a war and who wins and I need to get my revenge on her. And he was kind of one of the leading forces to get D or Tiffany out of the game. So I will give him credit for that. But, you can't be the one person to lead a vote. You had to get 11 people on board to go with that. So 10 people, I think, to go on board with that. So yeah, fine. You had some credit, but it didn't get you far in this game, Coach. And tonight is just an all-time Coach episode. There's a lot of people who had a really good episode tonight. Coach, Sari, Rick Devens, the big 3 of tonight's episode. All 3 of them had wonderful performances in one way or another. But yeah, Coach, of course, being cocky after camp, it's what we'd expect from Coach. So we got some pre-alliance, some pre-challenge talk from the old school alliance, which is Chrissy, Jonathan, Stephanie, the Coach. Apparently they have Ozzy with them, which is a little concerning. And then they basically just have everybody who's played before. Well, it's not like that. They have Joe too, so I don't know. Apparently Joe isn't in the Zoom alliance. I have to clear Joe's name, and Joe has some funny moments tonight on this episode. But yeah, the old school alliance, that kind of main group that's been at least running the first vote of this merge, is now working on taking out the middle players, Christian and Rick Devens and Aubrey, which I'm so confused on the middle. Is it just Tiffany's on one side and everybody else is on the other side, and in the middle, the people who aren't immediately let's get Tiffany out? What are the sides here? It doesn't seem like there's a formidable, I can see factions, but it's not I don't see it as people being in the middle. There's no really war going on or anything between, I just don't see that personally. So that was a little confusing on why are they playing in the middle? Is it just against Tiffany? I don't know. I thought that was really confusing. Christian, Not a lot out of Christian the last. Well, he gets like a standard amount of content, but Christian is rocking Suri in the hammock once again, which is hilarious. After the scene of him rocking Joe, and people really like that scene and think that he's doing well with people because he's rocking them in the hammock. So this time he's rocking Suri, which I thought that was funny, and I'm sure Suri's like, "What are you doing, dude?" She probably actually doesn't even care at all. Moving on, Ozzy is the first to fess up to Tiffany. I believe only two. We only see the two confessions from Ozzy and Joe like was basically forced into doing it essentially. But Ozzy takes it upon himself to be the first one to tell Tiffany. He was one of one of the people who voted for her. And at this point, she's just scorned. I think someone describes her as a free agent. Coach, well, actually, we see Coach have a chat with her, and that doesn't really, we'll talk about that in a second. But I don't think Coach was one of the people who voted for Tiffany. I believe it was Joe. Yeah, it was Joe, Ozzy, Stephanie, and maybe I forget who even voted for Tiffany, but we only see two real confessions. And Ozzy is the first one to go up to her and say, and smart decision by Ozzy to also wait for the morning, doesn't do it right away at night when, tensions are running high, emotions are running high. He says, hey, I voted for you, but that is not like something I'm willing to continue on with. I want to work with you in this game. And Tiffany receives it pretty well, where she probably feels like she's in an island with no true allies. So for Ozzy to be the first one to jump in there and say, hey, I was one of the people who voted for you, but that's nothing personal. And like, I want to work with you and like, let's get this going. And they want to plan revenge on Coach. Ozzy's obviously had the season-long sort of rivalry with Coach. And some people were assuming that just wasn't real at all. But tonight we found out, at least there was not a handshake agreement not to vote for each other, because Ozzy does vote for Coach and Chrissy, but they want to plan their revenge on Coach, with Tiffany obviously being a part of that major feud between D. It's like kind of like D and Tiffany versus Coach and Jonathan. So who knows what'll happen? I feel like there are a lot of tips on this episode that it was going to be Coach and Chrissy, but we'll get to it. So we get a boat to camp, and they're all going to have to pair up, which is usually just some bullshit about, we get to compete together and do a 5-part challenge where we're going to go to the end, and then a pair will be 2 pairs competing for immunity, blah, 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 blah. But this time, if you've been paying attention to the online circuits, they call this the Tied Destinies twist. I believe it's from Survivor South Africa, and a lot of people knew this one was coming, which hopefully we don't get spoiled on a lot of stuff that's coming up. I don't know many things that are happening in the season, thankfully, but you have to pair up. Only problem is there's 13 people, so kind of a weird kind of scuttlebutt of who's going to be with who. Not a lot of things get explained. I think they at least knew that they were going to be in the challenge together. So like a team like Christian and Jonathan is actually a really smart team, where you have somebody who's good at the puzzles in Christian and somebody who's really physical in Jonathan, and they're also on both sides of the game. In theory, Jonathan's with the old school people, Christian's with the new school / like actually willing to play the game people. So that's a good duo right there. Some of the other duos, Ozzy and Stephanie, is like fine, because neither of them are really in trouble anyway. Rizzo and Emily I thought was interesting, because Emily could be like a Ricochet, potentially, just let's all turn on Emily because she can't keep her mouth shut. So I was worried a little bit for my man Rizzo, and I think Rizzo's one of my favorite people on the season right now. I hate to say it. What are the other pairs? Rick and Aubrey I thought was a really poor choice. I guess you're kind of limited in options, but I thought for sure they might be cooked tonight until some tides turned. Same thing with Chrissy and Coach. I think you want to be with somebody who's not in your alliance. Like Tiffany and Joe I thought was a really good alliance, because Tiffany probably would be safe even if Joe didn't have immunity. Who knows? But like, I don't know if they'd turn on Joe like that, and Joe's kind of just useless in the game. So, that's a good one. And then what was the other pair? I think I hit them all. Am I missing anybody? I'm trying to think while I talk. I think that's it. And the one person who's left out is Suri. Now, Mother Suri, okay? She gets to be the odd one out, and I think this is actually smart for her. She has the pitch of, hey, I'm not good in the challenges, so you don't want me tethered to you in the challenge. We're going to lose for sure. Like, you want to have a chance to at least do it on your own. And it doesn't really work, because they're just going to draw from the shots in the dark, which I guess is a big thing that they're using now. I think this will become the meta now for picking things. They'll just put your shots in the dark in a bag, and somebody will pick it. But Suri gets picked, so she gets to be the odd one out, and we'll see what that means in a couple minutes. So that aforementioned conversation I was talking about between Coach and Tiffany, Coach decides he needs to have a sit down with Tiffany. But I think there's a world where Coach could win this season. I know that's crazy to say. Like I think actually as the season came closer and closer, I actually kind of thought Coach did win the season just from his like TikTok activity. I mean, if you've seen his videos, he's just walking out into traffic in like a $2,000 coat. He's doing crazy shit. I thought he might be the one to pull it off. And he like seemingly is revered by the newer school players, but he just went too fucking crazy on the island. And he didn't think things through. Like when this is my struggle with Coach, where I love Coach the character, I love Coach as a person. I think, game wise, he's a little like honor and integrity bound, which is fine. But he needs to think like to the next level. And I don't think we're ever going to get Coach playing Survivor again unless it's Australia versus the world, or like a shortened, like if Paramount for some reason does shortened seasons for like a week or something. I could see him doing that, but I don't think he's coming back in the main show ever. And the show kind of hinted at that tonight, in my opinion, with his send off. But my thing with him is he doesn't think the next level through. First example of that being Dee telling Dee that Emily's pushing her name. They're friends from their season. That's just a really dumb move, especially on a tribe of 5. That's not going to go over well with Dee, and you just know that you're just pulling your ass out of, you're pulling your thoughts out of nothing. Like that's just nothing. And I don't know. I thought that was a really weak decision. And tonight he makes like the first right step of going to talk to Tiffany about it and just saying, let me squash this. There's 13 people left. We can figure this out. We can just blend into the background. But he doesn't have a plan when he's like, that wasn't me at all pushing the vote. By the way, he was last night saying I was the one who pushed the vote. But when Tiffany asked the simple question of, okay, it wasn't you, who was it? He could at least throw somebody under the bus, but he doesn't have anything even prepared for that. And that's the problem with Coach right there. I think this season was he was not willing to go that next level or think to the next level. And, I think Coach is limited in his gameplay. I'm sorry. He's a great character, and I'd take Coach in every Survivor season just to be entertaining. But gameplay-wise, I was not thrilled with Coach, especially coming into the season with massive pregame alliances and, the new school revering you. Charlie loves you. Rizzo loves you. Camilla loves you. Like Genevieve loves you. Like this, really, to be one of the first people out in the jury. I think this is only his 3rd tribal council. Not great performance from Coach in this season, strategic wise. And obviously, he gave us everything in terms of entertainment wise. So we'll always take Coach back. But I don't know. I thought this conversation with Tiffany was poorly planned out, and it ends in kind of a nothing burger. I'm sure it ended differently on the actual island, but we only get the edited scenes. So that's where we end off with that. We get to the challenge. The twist is revealed, and shocker, it's somehow the one everyone knew was coming. Dual fates, or whatever I said before. No, tied destinies. I'm sorry. So everything is done in duos, and that means you're safe together. You vote for one pair, but if you have an idol or a shot in the dark, that can also count for you. I guess we learned that after the challenge, but everything is done in pairs. But if one person, like, you can all vote. The only thing you do individually is vote, essentially, and including an immunity challenge, which was actually a pretty riveting challenge, in my opinion, which we'll get to in a second. But what does this mean for Sari, who's the odd one out? She gets to go to the Exile Island, which I am glad they included Exile Island on this season, even though I think this is only the 3rd time using it. It's fun, to see. Well, I guess to do like a bullshit New Era challenge, I don't know. But interesting twist. I think people are going to hate it. And I don't think in theory it's really a fair or fun twist to have in every season. But y'all, like, the problem is this, right? I think this is actually the really big problem of season 50. We got 24 people, so we have to get people out of there. And I actually think they've managed this season super well and massaged this season super well to get people to be on the show longer. Like, we're not bringing Coach back just to have him fucking 3 episodes. Like, if we just do double, these people are here for half a second. We get Q out in episode 2 rather than 3. We get Mike White out in episode 3 instead of 5, stuff like that. So I think they actually have done a really good job of managing when people go home. And guys, we have 24 people playing a 26-day game. There's going to be twists and BS. And yes, I'm not a big fan of tonight, but to be like in shock, like some of these casuals I'm seeing TV time in shock that 2 people are going home tonight. Spoiler alert, there's probably going to be at least 2 more double boots. We have 11 people left and 5 episodes left. Like, come on, guys. There's going to be double boots. Is this the best way to do it? No, but like, I think that's the problem is we got 24 people, but people don't like the 24 people. Oh, we should have got Amanda. We should have got X and O. We should have got Jerry. And I agree. We should have got different people, but we have to play with what we have. And we have 24 people. You have to go fast. So it is what it is at this point. I'm not going to sit here and be like bitching about the twist. I think I have the Aubrey approach. The season was filmed a year ago, and yes, we can have feedback for the future seasons, but it's not going to affect tonight. And tonight actually had a really good result, so I actually wouldn't be surprised if they run this twist back. But I think positive spin. Maybe we do more returning player seasons with more players, and you do more bullshit twists like this. Are people going to be really crying in a couple of years saying Chrissy or Coach got twist screwed tonight? Like, I don't think so. Maybe Chrissy, but like Chrissy had nothing going on in the game. But she was going to go on and win? I don't think so. I mean, I don't hate Chrissy. Shout out to Chrissy. Like, she should have got shown more on the show. I think the problem with Chrissy was she just had an amazing interview, and then she got back on an island, and they were like, oh, she's actually not as interesting as we thought. Because you have people like Dom Abate and the people in the late 30s who like should have been locks to come back. Rick Devens being one of those people who was an alternate on the season. Crazy. So I think the late 30s group kind of got screwed over by not having enough return seasons. And then Chrissy had like a really fire interview. She really wanted to come back and play. And now she's like not happy with her edit. And I'm not happy with her edit just as a fan of the show. I don't even care that much about Chrissy. I don't really like anybody on Heroes, Healers, Hustlers besides Devin. Not to go on that rant, but yeah, I feel like it's tough to have this stuff go down, but I don't think people are going to care about this in like 2 years. I think they're going to look back and be like, remember when Rick Devens faked an idol and got Coach and Chrissy out of the game? Like, I don't. And from a casual perspective, they're probably eating this shit alive. I'm eating this shit alive, and I'm like a super fan. I thought this was a great episode, and I don't know. All that to say, the twist is probably staying. Would I do it every season? No. Would I do it on a 24-person season where you have to get people out the door? I'd consider it. And would you rather have this tonight, or would you rather have next week to go to 2 groups of 6 and do another split? Like, at least it's an interesting spin on the game. So that's my thoughts on it. Not the biggest fan, but I'm not going to sit here and bitch about it for 5 minutes, even though I just like rambled. So there you go. Three-headed X. All that to say, three-headed X Island. So, like I was saying, an actually pretty interesting, riveting challenge where now we have the duos playing for each other. And immediately I see these duos, I called it out when I was seeing it before. Rick and Aubrey will be in danger, and then probably Coach and Chrissy, because those are the only 2 people from the same alliances on the duos together, where I guess you could say like Ozzy and Stephanie are technically on the same alliance, and maybe Rizzo and Emily are perceived to be on the same alliance, but like, knowing what we know, those 2 groups made a lot of sense for people to be in trouble. So I was super excited. I was actually rooting for Rick and Aubrey to make a comeback in this challenge because I didn't want to see them go home. I'd rather have Coach and Chrissy go home just to make the game interesting, because if Rick and Aubrey go home, the old school pregame alliance runs the season. Now the game is blown wide open. So that's what I wanted to see on Survivor 50. And from all the reviews of people who played and Jeff saying this is going to be a great season, we can figure that maybe it is going to blow up. But good job by Rick and Aubrey being able to come back in that little ladder thing to get to be the third group to make it to the second stage of the challenge. And then shout out to Joe and Tiffany being able to be the ones to win the second stage and win immunity and reward. So good job for those people. Joe and Tiffany, big one for her. Obviously, Tiffany could be a potential target tonight. Like I said, I don't know if people are coming for Joe necessarily, but people would definitely be coming for Tiffany, and Joe could just be fodder. So good job by those 2 to wrap up immunity. And we get back to Exile Island. Now, I'll never call production interference. I'll never question the integrity of Survivor. But you're telling me Suri looked through 2,000 coconuts in that small hourglass amount of time and found the one. It's probably about halfway. We never saw the timer after she turned it. And I'm glad Suri got to show up tonight, because we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But woo-wee, I don't know if that was legit, but she found it. She finds one with the Phoenix, and, some people have been talking about what makes Suri cry. I don't think she's ever cried any for 4 seasons before. Oh, she actually bawled her eyes out on the beam moment, probably a game changer. But this is a winning moment for Suri, in my opinion. Like, damn, Suri's been kind of consistent throughout the season, has actually been like a pretty decent under the radar edit of like being a potential winner candidate. But I thought this might be the Tony, this is an extortion episode to lift her over the top. I think Suri is a serious contender to this game. It's always with Suri, the question is, do people flip on her right before the end, or do they let her get there? And there might be enough soldiers for her to let her go through. I mean, Stephanie's her ally under the radar. I think that's something that might have happened with Stephanie being looped in the boat tonight. She's got Rizzo and Ozzy. That trio is seemingly going to go far. She has to set up a relationship with Rick. Christian's very excited to see her. Tiffany, I could see those two working together as kind of like a Michaela Suri type vibe. And I don't know, man. I think this is looking pretty good for Suri right now. The question is, in 2 weeks, am I sitting here saying or 3 weeks or 4 weeks saying they turned on Suri? Obviously, if Suri gets the end, she's a walk-in to win the game. But I thought this was a really strong moment from her. And yes, it's circumstantial content because she was on the journey alone. But Mother Suri, if Suri wins Survivor 50, wrap it up. We don't need any more Survivor. This would be the perfect ending. If it were to go, right? What better way would it be than to Suri, and Survivor 51's coming back in the falls, and that's today. It doesn't matter. If you just stopped watching Survivor now, and Suri just won season 50, cinema. That's literally cinema, okay? So let's just hope that it happens. It probably won't happen, but pretty strong episode from Suri tonight. Once again, back at the camp before the tribal council, I'm very confused on who these middle players are, the sides. I kind of wrote this later on, but who's qualifying Rick, Aubrey, and Emily? And they're obviously just a little faction. With Aubrey, not even Rick said Aubrey would have gone home if they knew she wasn't going to play her idol. So I think Aubrey's a free agent too, which could be a scoop up for somebody like Suri, who has a pregame connection, not actually hey, I'm going to protect you type Zoom bullshit, but they play together. I think Aubrey's a free agent who could cause some chaos, and I believe Aubrey's going to go far in the season. So I was confused on who's in the middle, why they're in the middle, but maybe that's a combo for another day, and we'll find out more in Extra Press. Joe and Tiffany have the reward of the spaghetti. Joe admits it to Tiffany. Probably a little bit worse than the way Ozzy did it, and Tiffany's like, it's a good time to do it, though, because Tiffany's like, oh, you bugger. They're literally just eating spaghetti and drinking wine, and eating tiramisu, which the tiramisu kind of looked good, and I can never remember if I'm a fan of tiramisu. Anyways, Joe tells Tiffany he voted for her, and Joe had a moment of had a confession. He's like, this is what made me realize I want to lock in with Tiffany for sure. Okay, big bro, we'll see that happen. Sure, bro, fine. Tiffany's not too upset. Like I said, though, I think it's smart of these people to do this, even if it's a little too late on Joe's end. And I think Joe did do it at a good time, so I'm not going to, bitch on Joe too much. But good job to Joe. And Tiffany's free agent, so could be a potential play there. A super hilarious part, and maybe the end to Coach's big play here on season 50. He is just hilarious in this latter half of this episode. Chrissy says, we're tied together. You cannot run around and do your haikus. You cannot run around and be a maniac today. I just need you to sit on the hammock and do nothing. And does Coach probably regret not scrambling a little bit? Probably, yeah. But I don't think Coach really cared that much about winning this season. I think he was just here to make good TV. And he gives us some funny haikus. He's singing. It was just awesome from Coach. We got a little pan to him doing some Tai Chi under that rock. That's a big part of the promotion for the season. And it's actually on the intro, spoiling that he made the merge on the intro shots. Man, I'll miss Coach. It's bittersweet to see Coach go tonight because from a game perspective, I think it was a good move for both the fans and the people playing the game. But from an entertainment standpoint and just liking what Coach provides, it was tough to see him go. But super funny afternoon from Coach, and the stuff with him and Chrissy was hilarious. Don't know if he would have changed much getting off the hammock in this one. Seemingly everyone had just turned against him and it had been enough. So who knows? And the main reason why that turned against him was one, the only, Suri. And not only does she have her moment with the coconuts that I was just talking about, she flips this vote on its fucking head. That's Queen Suri. And if she's not in your top 10, get out of my face. She just comes back and everyone could have done this on their own and been like, you know what, let's get Coach and Chrissy out tonight. But everyone's like, thank God Suri is back tonight and we can just wreck this shit and go through with it. And now Suri's hearing it's going to be Rick and Aubrey, and Suri likes Aubrey, we know that, and she likes Rick, we know that. So she's like, we can get the 2-for-1 and go for Coach and Chrissy, and that knock the mom and dad of the alliance out of here. Super smart gameplay from Suri. That's what I was saying from the beginning. I don't think it makes sense to take out the middle players. She's like, I forget who she's talking to. She's like, honey, the middle's going to always be out there to get. And she's setting herself up for future votes. This was just a Suri masterclass, you know, and Ozzy's excited to see her come back. Rizzo's excited to see her come back. Christian's excited to see her come back. It's aura. Like, you know, I stopped saying aura as much in the last couple of recent podcasts, but Suri has a just certifiable, not uncertifiable, certifiable aura, Suri. And she just completely flips this bone in his head. And as soon as she said that, I knew it was cooked. Because Rizzo and if you have Rizzo and Ozzy with you, you got the numbers because you got the Rick and that quartet. Simple, easy money, you know? Good job, Suri. Awesome, smart play. What an episode for Suri. But they do want to loop in people, and of course, the one person who you can't loop in on anything without, you know, some drama and just loyalty and integrity and everything, it's Joe. And Joe, I thought was a fine casting choice. People love him. My mom loves him. But he's just... he made me laugh, bro. And he's an unironic great casting choice this season where he's just so, like, prickly about being honor and integrity bound, and he's just so serious all the time. It's just hilarious to me. So Joe becomes a key part of this, which they don't actually need jokes. You have Suri, Rizzy. I always say Rizzy after, because I always say Suri, then Rizzo. Suri, Rizzo, Ozzy, Emily, Rick, Aubrey, Christian. That's 7 of 13. Boom, boom, see ya. So they don't actually need Joe, but they want to loop him in because they want him to be a part of their future plans. He thinks Coach is a loyal soldier for him, which is true. So really just bad gameplay by Joe, but like there's nothing he could do, so I'm not going to knock him too much for that. But I thought this wasn't going to end well, end in a scramble maybe. It doesn't. There's really not a lot of actual stakes when it comes to the actual Tribal Council tonight. But we get to Tribal Council where... You know, I've been playing some Reality Grid. Shout out to Reality Grid and Survivor Duel, the Survivor version of Wordle. But on all that time, I had not seen or heard this name in a while. War Dog Da Silva mentioned tonight in Survivor 50. War Dog is officially in Survivor 50 lore. Wow. You know, we had Eric Reichenbach tonight as well on the Suri. Have to always flash back to that moment. We had Sarah Lacina on screen, but we have an actual quote from War Dog Da Silva tonight. Who would have known? Not me. So Aubrey mentions him saying the twist is not on trial tonight, which, yeah, and we'll see. I have a feeling Chrissy's not going to be happy about this twist in her exit press. Coach is probably not going to give a fuck. He's probably just going to be spinning about some bullshit. I feel like Chrissy thinks she's screwed over, and Coach probably feels less like that. I personally, I could see it from Chrissy's angle of like, would she have gone home tonight? But like, what's the future for Chrissy? Like, if they just go Coach, I don't know. You know, who would have known? Maybe she's playing. Will Chrissy play again? I doubt it, because she got kind of shafted in the edit and was kind of complaining about that on social media. I don't know. So we have some intense very good tribal council tonight, very strong tribal council. So Joe, I remember, I think I did talk about season 48, and there was the moments of Joe like staring at Shaheen. This time he's doing it to Coach. So does that mean like he's just going to make the wrong decision for his game when he stares at people at tribal council? And I wouldn't be shocked if Joe plays again, but we're going to have that conversation after the season. Rick has like and I don't like when they do these like what's the word I'm looking for? Cerebral, like tribal council. It's like he's just like focusing, like Joe's voice is like drowning out. Like I don't care for that. I don't care for that, to be honest. But Rick gets a hazy moment, and then he's like, you know what? I'm going for the idol. And I used to hate Rick Devon bombs and news alerts and all that crap. I used to come into school pissed off every time he survived a vote. But tonight, cheers. And it paid off. And I'm so glad they left it there. The producers could just pick that up and just, I mean, I guess that's like production interference, but what a moment for Rick. People, do they believe him? I don't know. Rizzo fanboys and says he found 6 or 5 idols. Is that even true? I don't know. Rizzo probably knows better than I do. But Stephanie's like, we have to get him to show it to us, and she's trying to get Christian to go across and make him show it to you, which was a weird play by Stephanie to have Christian do that, but for herself to ask, hey, can you show me that? That's a good play right there. But Rick, that's the problem with these old schoolers, that they don't think to the next level. Rick's thinking to the next level, hey, you might have knowledge power, I'm not going to show you, which is like a dumb answer in theory, kind of, if you think it through, but it's tribal council. Things are flying left and right. Live tribal, back-to-back live tribal. Are we going to get a live tribal every single tribal council for Survivor Season 50? I'd be down. If you hate live tribals, you hate Survivor. Fact. So, W back and forth from Rick. Rick wins against Stephanie, and some good back and forth here on what's going on. Seemingly, the good back and forth between Jonathan and Rick. Johnny boy, not happy with the result tonight, buddy. Your allies got fraud. You were the only people left off the vote. Oh, not a great look for him. Beefing back and forth with Rick, and Rick calls out the alliances. This gave a lot of parallels to the Passengers Tribal Council at season 38, with Julia Carter going home, but except it was kind of different. But just that little back and forth conversation. Rick's like, look who's talking to each other. They're the alliance. And I think that might have been the final nail in the coffin, if there wasn't a final nail in the coffin, if this wasn't already established before Tribal Council or before Rick pulled out the idol. But props to Rick Devens. What a moment tonight at Tribal Council. I've got to call that out. It plays out after, what was that, the Savannah vote off? They did that? Or was it, I don't think it was the Jenna Lewis vote out. So it was probably the second Tribal Council. They do the fake trip. And it plays out 6 episodes later. So I love that from Rick and Christian. Rick is my favorite tonight, and I love Christian when Rick does it. He's trying just not to smile. He's like he's about to geek. So that was an awesome moment. Like, really, this is what and D. I'm just D on the jury. Survivor season 50. Like, she's eating it up. I'm eating it up. What a season! What an episode tonight. And not only that, for more drama, we get to the vote reveal. Coach played a shot in the dark, so I think there is a chance that somebody tipped off Coach, whether it was Stephanie or Joe, or I guess Jonathan, in theory, didn't know about the vote. But Coach does play a shot in the dark, and if that's safe, that means him and Chrissy are safe, and that probably means Dunzo for Rick and Aubrey, because he can't play it. Rick tells Aubrey, I can't play this till next Tribal Council, I have to sneak it out. So Rick could potentially have like a floating idol. Who knows? That's actually a really good term for a floating idol. If like Rizzo had a floating idol, which was, who knows? Anyways, Coach plays a shot in the dark. I'm standing up because I stand up for every Tribal Council Survivor Season 50, but it does not hit not safe for Coach tonight. And everyone had turned on Coach, which was shocking. As we get the first vote, it was 1-1-1 with Chrissy. Once Chrissy actually wrote down the names Rizzo and Emily, I knew she was cooked. But for everyone to have turned, including Stephanie and Joe, that was shocking, man. So what a season for Coach. Chrissy, kind of got under-edited, which sucks. I have nothing to say because I don't think Chrissy will be back. But she was fun in moments on the season, so I'm fine with Chrissy. But Coach, what a journey. 4th season. Worst performance, right? Maybe, I think worst placement. They had Chrissy go up first to give Coach a little boost, which I wonder how that placement was determined. But Coach, is this it, bro? We loved having him back. The old school legends are going out. It's carnage. It's season 50. People got to go home. So it is what it is. Thank you, Coach, for everything you've done for Survivor. And I'm sure in 2 years he'll pop up on Trader or something like that. It's just a lock, a fate and destiny. House of Villains, something like that. So that's where we leave off another banger episode, Survivor Season 50, Episode 8. Love this episode. Another great episode. I can't even pick my favorites. I think, does this beat out last week? Yeah, it does. And it might be the best episode of the season so far. I don't know. I'll have to think that through at the end of the season, but as always, I'll give you my top 3 players to win and top 3 players on next. As I alluded to, my number 1 right now, Suri. I think she's set up really well. Nobody's seen it coming for her. If she can get to the end, she automatically wins, so she has that going for her. I think she's a really strong contender right now. Number 2, I got Rizzo. His storyline is just heating up, playing with legends. He fanboys tonight. Can he get the people at the end to say, Rizzo, you deserve this money? That's where I struggle with it, just from a realistic standpoint. I think he's got a good edit going, and I think he's a main player in the season, so we'll see. Number 3, I have Rick. This was a circumstantial episode for Rick, but he's had a pretty strong edit throughout the season. I think if people come for that alliance, they come for Christian, or they come for Aubrey before they come for him or Emily, just from what I'm getting from that edit. But Rick, I have number 3. Top 3 players I believe could be out next. Easy one is Jonathan voting incorrectly. Big challenge threat 2. We're at 11 now. He could potentially go on a run if things get interesting with the immunity challenges. Aubrey or Christian are my next 2. I just think people in that middle alliance now are going to be cooked because they wanted to go from this time. Let's go from next time. And I don't see Rick going home. So that's where we leave off with that. And next week looks like we have Jeff participating in the challenge. Every week we have a new little gimmick. So next week will be Jeff's week. We're still waiting on Jimmy Fallon, and we're still waiting on Mr. Beast to show up in Survivor Season 50 and potentially something else. I don't know if it's happening or not, but we'll see if there's a family visit on Survivor Season 50. All right, well, that's where we leave off episode 8. Who do you guys believe is going to win? If you're spoiled, don't comment. I don't care for your comments if you're spoiled on the season. Yeah, but we're going to be back every week covering Season 50. Besides next week when I'm in New York, I'll probably just do a little short, so stay tuned for YouTube and TikTok for those short-term videos. Been pumping those bad boys out, the short-term videos, so really trying to pick up the social media presence on those ends, and we'll be back in 2 weeks with a full another sit-down episode like this one for Survivor Season 50. It's been awesome to talk about this season, and I'm super excited about Survivor and just the podcast in general right now, so would love it if you subscribe, like, comment, do what you gotta do. If Survivor isn't your jam, but you made it to the end of this video somehow, I do other shows. I've been covering Daredevil Born Again, Season 2, and also Maul, Shadow Lord, doing little short videos on the Maul stuff, and then Daredevil gets both a short and a long-term video. In terms of movies, big review coming Friday, Project Hail Mary. My big review for Project Hail Mary. What did I think of one of the biggest grossing movies of the year so far? Besides that, expect In the Name of the Father coming soon after that, and more movie reviews as always. NBA playoffs kicked off Monday night. We did our brackets and talked through the first round matchup. So lots, as always, happening on the Dubcast. Appreciate you sticking all the way through, and as always, be easy, y'all.